Welcome back to Keep It Good. I'm your host, Emily.
And I'm your host, Carly. We have a great guest with us today. Her name is Jess Pretak. She is a licensed clinical social worker. And I know we've been kind of tapping into the whole mental health aspect of things. And we thought, why not dive all the way in? It's about that time where seasonal depression hits, all the things. We all get into ruts. So she's here to kind of help navigate us and give us a little bit of tidbits. So welcome, Jess. We're so excited to have you.
I am so excited to sit with you guys today.
Welcome, welcome. I think you're going to
Welcome.
help a lot of people. Yes. I think you're going to help a lot of people today because this is a lot of people kind of not bring this topic up much, or there's that stigma around it. But today we're going to try and break that stigma. So everybody just kind of realizes we're all in it. We're all in it. We all
Yeah,
face it. There's nothing to be ashamed of, right?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So starting off, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? What got you into this awesome field?
Yeah, it is an awesome field. And I feel very grateful that I can go to work every day and say, oh, I love my job. But this is actually my second career, so to say. After undergrad, I was working in a children's probate court and I met
Oh,
all types of people. And I was so amazed with everyone's vulnerability and sharing their story in order to access help. So I quickly realized talking to people is what I really loved. I loved witnessing stories. I loved connecting with all walks of this life and seeing people really on every end of the spectrum. So I went back to grad school, and since then I've been working. I've had a taste of every type of medicine pretty much. I've worked in infant mental health. I've worked with pregnant moms, kids, adolescents, teens, adults, geriatrics, and I think it's just been such an amazing experience to witness vulnerability and witness change and growth. I think what's been most amazing is seeing how many people want to move through their generational trauma. So yeah, we could go deep today. I've heard a lot, I've experienced a lot, so it's been really amazing to do this work.
well, thank you for doing
That's
that.
incredible.
Yeah. You hold a lot in, which is not easy to do as a human being. So I applaud you for that. I
Oh,
mean,
Right.
thank you.
you are the alchemist for them. And we just did an episode going from bitter to better. And
Yeah.
we touched on the shadow work, and hopefully you
Yeah.
can dive in deeper for our listeners to kind of really learn those tools because I think those are powerful, powerful tools.
Yes, they really, really are.
So, next question. What are you seeing that most people deal with quietly? Like, what are most people struggling with right now?
I think a lot of the things that people are quietly struggling with are the most invisible things and the things that you can't really name. I usually encompass it as grief. So it could be like the actual grief of someone who is no longer earthside. And I think more so I'm seeing grief of relationships, grief of how maybe you envision family. It's a big topic. So I think grief is a big thing because it also pairs with loneliness. So I'm seeing that people want to be alone. They want to work on their own interests. They want to grow and develop as a person, but then they feel that they've gone too far on one end of the spectrum and are lonely. But on the flip side, it takes so much energy to see people and to connect with people. So it's really this unnameable topic of, yeah, of grief.
Well, that makes sense.
Right? Like it's so heavy, and I think a lot of people have trouble identifying it. And of course, I can't speak for every single population, but I think a lot of things I'm seeing women quietly struggle with is this idea of perfection.
Mhm.
And it's usually driven from like we're all millennials here, so it's always driven from the generation before us and what it means to be productive in this world and be the perfect mom, the perfect partner, the perfect sister, neighbor, you name it. Um, so women are able to identify it, I think, a little more so than men. I see a lot of men in my practice, and I think what men, and I'm not a man. I can't speak, like I said, for the whole population, but I'm seeing a lot of men struggle with verbalizing their needs and not coming off sounding like they need to be taken care of, even though that's exactly what they're looking for. They're really hoping that someone can take care of them and someone can intuit their needs just as they try to intuit everyone else's needs.
Well, that's
So,
fair. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, because
right?
it shouldn't just be like, oh, women deserve this and men are just born to be strong. Like, I look at my 2 boys and yeah, their feelings matter. And I would hope that they feel strong enough to share if they're not happy or we all deserve support. It's not men versus women.
No.
We're all human. We all have these feelings and it's
Yes.
completely natural. It doesn't make you less than, you
Well,
know?
it's
Right.
like guys are supposed to be strong and not talk about their feeling, you know? They can bottle it in. They're strong and masculine, you know?
Yeah. It's a
So
it's a
yeah,
stereotype
stereotype.
that needs to get tossed real quick.
Yeah. Now, with the grief topic, like, I thought you were gonna maybe go into, like, anxiety of it. So, is there, like, a lot of layers underneath that grief? Like, that would not be something I would have thought.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think one thing I'm also seeing a lot, the anxiety of like end of life. So we all developmentally grow. And I think at our age, we're not typically there quite yet, but I see a lot of folks in their 40s and 50s that are questioning everything they had done or not done in their life. And so the anxiety of, oh my gosh, am I enough? So again, it kind of comes down to, am I enough? Why am I here? What am I doing? What's the next avenue I'm going to take? And some of that pressure that we get from the society that we need to be good enough for everyone and everything. Like, as my own therapist always says, this is Earth school. Like, it's not a cut and dry answer. You're going to keep learning and growing as you go through every single one of your developmental stages from birth to death.
Yeah.
That's meta.
Oh.
It's kind of wooey and,
Oh, I'm
No,
but
all
I
we
love
have
love
it.
you
that. We
have
like the
Yes,
you
I
woo.
have met you. Yes,
I am all about the woo woo.
We
Bring
want
it
some
on.
more
I want
yeah.
woo.
more. I
Yes,
love
I've
it.
got a lot of it.
um, what like if you could give every listener a daily mental health hygiene practice, what would it be?
Well, it's, hard to pin one thing down, and I know most of your listeners, especially since you 2 have talked about it, but the basics of healthy intuitive eating, sleep, body movement. I It's a bit of a two-pronged answer. So my best practice, I think, is to cultivate connection. I think it's reaching out to other people. Like, I have a long distance best friend, and we do a Waffle Wednesday where we send a video to each other, just updating each other on the week, what has gone well, what was tricky. It's that outward connection. And we talk, throughout the week as well. But there's something about having that one person, kind of like your previous podcast about a hype girl, having that one person that is going to see you through the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And the other type of connection I would say is internal connection. So it's supporting yourself and your own growth by saying one kind thing to yourself every day. I think it is
Oh.
a beautiful moment to see yourself, especially as women. We are used to the hustle and bustle because we have parts of us that drive that train. So to slow down and not even to hype yourself up. And it could be, you survived today, or like you made the bed, or look at you, you washed your hair when it was hair washing day. It could be the most simple, basic exercise, but it goes deeper than that. And I think if you even want to go deeper, 10 minutes of meditation every
Oh
day.
yeah.
Yeah. It
No,
can
Yep.
help build resilience, patience, connection. So it can build the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I need the patience.
You have it. Other things just get in the way, I think. And that's the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about the
Yeah.
shadow or ego state work, which we can dive into too.
Yeah. Why don't you go into shadow work because we touched on it very briefly in one of the last episodes, Bitter to Better, but it really is such a powerful tool, and it can be scary, because like I said in that other episode, you're revealing things you don't like about yourself, and you're facing
Right.
it head on and just being completely honest, right? So dive in. Yeah. Take the
Yes,
plunge.
yeah. So bitter to better, when I hear that, I think bitterness and pain is displaced love. So if we're able to recognize it as displaced love, you're automatically jumping to power and to better. So that's like my one little tidbit about that phrase, because I think that is a very powerful phrase. So with shadow work, there are different theoretical orientations towards that. Some people call it shadow work, there's ego state work. And what I do is internal family systems, which is parts work. If you are a parent or an adult that loves Pixar, Inside Out is the best representation of parts work. So it's this idea that we have all of these little parts in our heads. And when I say that, I have clients that have said, I don't have voices in my head. It's like, but you do. And it's not to say you have a more significant mental health challenge. It's just to say, let's go in, let's go deep, let's get to know these parts. So at our core, and Emily, that's what I meant when I said you have the patience. Like, girl, you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So it's this
I need
concept
this,
that
help
we
me find it.
yes, it's there. It's all there. We all have at our core self energy, self leadership. It's like an essence of feeling of compassion, of clarity, courage, choice. It's a whole bunch of C words. And when we are super young, if any negative thing happens, it could be a big trauma, it could be a little trauma. It's all how our body and brain respond. So we develop these little parts when we're very young, and we call them protectors. So the protectors, again, those are your shadows, those are your parts. The ones we see in Inside Out are kind of like the big global ones of anger, disgust, sadness. And when we are out of control of the situation, or we assume we're out of control of the situation, those parts are so quick to jump in to make everything better. So, one metaphor I use with clients is wondering who's driving the bus. And is it you, or is it your anger? Is it your angsty teen? Is it your neglected 7-year-old self? And if they're driving the bus, let's get to know where they want to go. So the shadow work there is becoming as curious as you can with these parts to understand their narrative. And what I see a lot is that all of these protectors are protecting that little girl or little boy, whoever you identify as. Um, they're protecting you from harm and from something terrible happening. And there are what's called firefighters. So if anger is driving the bus and it's feeling this rage that this little inner girl is going to be hurt by something, and all of a sudden the anger is like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I've got nothing left. A firefighter part or shadow part will come in. And that usually looks like dissociation, gambling, doom scrolling, addiction. Those are kind of like suicidality, even. Those are the bigger shadow parts. And I think people are very scared of those parts because they are so heavy. They have a huge impact, not just on yourself, but on others around you. So it's more of the same. It's more of that part work and shadow work of understanding everyone's role in the system. How do they work together? What is the overall goal? And like I said, at the end of the day, usually the end goal is to protect those inner children like parts. And so much, the vast majority of our development happens at birth to 5 years old. So if you think of everything that could go wrong, and of course things go right too, and it's all based on attachment, but any little thing that could go wrong can impact what we carry with us moving forward through life.
Wow.
Oh, I feel like I screwed up
Is
my
I
kids.
know, I'm like,
well,
"Uh-oh,
I was I saw your
my
eyes
little
and I
one's
was
turning
just gonna
6."
say. So listen, and that's so your protectors jumped out. That was actually really beautiful because I was hoping I could give like an adult like example, and that
Mhm.
was perfect. You guys just like fed that to me on a silver platter because I'm the same way. Like I I have this perfectionist part that's like you have to be perfect at everything. Don't fuck up your kids. Just do every single thing right. But in the like, and I'm putting right in quotes because who's to know what's right? I mean, obviously, we are going to rely on our intuition and we know all of the big, bad, scary things that can happen to a kid. But it's understanding, okay, why do I have this perfectionist part? Where did this come from? And for a lot of women, like I was saying, of our age, it is the pressure from our parents of saying, like, "You need to be better than I was. You need to achieve more than I did. Like I have the resources, so now that you can do it because I couldn't do it. So now your
Mm.
generation is going to do it for your kids." So when those thoughts are ingrained really young, we carry that through our life. And you're not, I can promise you, you're not fucking up your kids because if someone truly was, they wouldn't even be fearful of that.
That's true.
Oh, okay, Carly, then we are doing something right.
I hope so.
You're crushing it, truly. You're bringing awareness to yourselves, and that's the most important thing. If you can have compassion towards yourself, you're automatically going to put that out into the universe.
Oh,
Wow.
that's sweet. Yeah.
It is, it really is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I've heard about this. I don't really know what shadow work is, but somebody who I know who went through a lot of trauma, she's older than me, but she years ago, probably 20 years ago when I had first met her, she was doing inner child like work. I don't know if it was through a therapist or through um, an online thing, but it was like a lot of journaling and kind of getting to the points of her, like, trauma as a young girl where most of her trauma was. And is that similar? Inner child I think that's what it was called. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of journaling and kind of
Yeah, absolutely. And journaling, I would say, is you really have to know your client. Well, in my perspective, I really have to know my client in order to recommend that because sometimes journaling can become so overwhelming that it's activating to a point where a client then might need that firefighter part to come in and mentally take them out because it's so overwhelming. And some of my clients will say, "No, Jess, I want to journal." And then I have to have faith that they will be okay outside the session and that my own little caretaker, people pleaser part can rest. So I think a lot of people also think it's so easy and quick to jump to that inner child. And you can most certainly try, but I find a lot that all of these protectors are going to protect that inner child. And I have even when I'm sitting with my therapist, and I'll throw myself kind of out there as an example. I will want to get to my little inner girl, um, and then I feel like I'm starting to do the work to address maybe her concerns as a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. But then all of a sudden, I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, Jess, you didn't pay your taxes. You have to create new business cards. You need to reschedule this person. You need to, do your billing. I'm like, well, hold on a second, this is a protector. This is a part of my little task manager that is coming in because she notices the threat of me talking to that little girl. And she doesn't want anyone to go meet the therapist. She doesn't want me to go anywhere near this 4-year-old. So I have to spend some time with my little task manager and hope she gives me some space so I can go to the 4-year-old. So we engage with these parts, the shadow work to protect the inner child. And I think I have seen clients that have been able to get to that inner child like too sweet, like very quickly. And I've also seen it take years for some people because these parts have become so ingrained in our psyche and in our system. And sometimes we don't even know if we're utilizing a part. It can be a sensation, it could be autoimmune disorders, it could be migraines, it could be that tight chest feeling. So the work is to really get to know and try to unblend from these parts. So you, today years old, can share your accomplishments with these parts. Look how far I've come. Look what I'm doing and will continue to do for the sake of healing and existing in human school.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I feel like we need an adult version of Inside Out. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes, I know.
it's such
I
a good movie.
literally, yeah, yeah. And I think I'm trying to think of some other like really common adults. Well, it could be depending on when this airs, but I mean for any time of the year to hear about the holidays in terms of people pleasing parts. And I have a big people pleaser. I would rather say yes, ma'am, to anyone and anything to avoid hurting someone else's feelings.
Right.
So
Same.
obviously, right? So obviously, we know that's going to lead to resentment, anger, frustration. And so then all those parts bubble up again. And then suddenly I just want to binge watch, some reality TV on the couch and be unbothered for days.
Yeah.
So it's this idea that, okay, that I need to get to know this people pleaser. Of course, she wants to protect my inner child. She doesn't want my inner child to have to hold the emotions of grown-ups, because people get disappointed, and it's not on me to cure their disappointment. I can should certainly be kind with my boundaries and kind with how I put myself out in the world. But at the end of the day, if I can't love myself and love that other person at the same time, then it's just going to be too stressful, and it's
Yeah,
really
it's
a
not
hard
going
way
to
to
work.
live. Right.
Yeah. You brought up boundaries. I think that's a huge I mean, it's easier to kind of put those boundaries up the older you get. I feel cuz in the, teens you just try and you want everyone to like you, all these things, but you're only hurting yourself at that point. Boundaries are really so important and I'm just learning about that like these past couple of years is really
Yeah.
being firm because, yeah, I was burnout for way too many years and it stole so much of myself away from my family, my friends. But how can you teach someone to set a boundary?
So again, like all of my answers are never simple, so bear with me. I feel
Ready?
like you're right, and I wouldn't be surprised if you also had any like somatic symptoms of burnout because that's that
Oh, all of them.
perfectionist part. Yeah, all of them, and it's like not good. Like the vibes are bad. So for
Mhm.
boundaries, I think the hype girl in me is saying yes, set your boundaries, protect your peace. Boundaries aren't meant to keep people out. It's meant to keep you safe in your heart and soul and spirit and family. And it goes deeper. So, what is happening with people who aren't able to set a boundary, or what's happening when boundaries aren't being enforced? And usually that's the little shadow people, pleaser parts that are like, no, 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 don't upset that person. Don't do it. Um, so, as much as it is easy and simple to say no, and that's a full sentence, it's really hard. I think it like comes in stages. So it's you set the boundary, you get really nervous and upset that maybe the boundary doesn't stick and you cave. Or then the next step is you set the boundary, you get really super nervous, but it sticks. And then third and final stage, you set the boundary and you don't give a F as to what the fallout
Mhm.
could be. So I think it's starting small and it's really going inside and wondering, okay, why do I have this part that never wants to set boundaries? What is that about? What, burnout's not that bad, right? If I know everyone else around me can be happy, what's a little burnout? And that's horrible. But it makes so much sense as to how we get there because we're chasing this, ideal life. And like you said in a previous podcast, like what is even ideal? Like you be you, the flaws and all. It's how we
Yeah.
show up.
Going back to what you said about, like, sitting on the couch or taking, like, some time you just wanna Netflix or scroll or whatever it is that you like to do, but is that is that okay? Like, is that your body telling you, like, just you need to just rest? Or is it like, "Ooh, that's not good. That's gonna put you into a depression or a"
A spiral, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be a fine line for some. I know for myself, I hit a point where I'm like, "Oh my god, go touch grass, like, get outside,
Yeah.
like, move
Yes.
your body." So it's almost like intuitively the light for me anyway, the light kind of switches. I think it's not like that for everyone, and it can be a slippery slope because then you realize you gave yourself so much room, time, and space to do nothing that it became so familiar and it became kind of ingrained into this new dynamic. And that's when it can get a little dangerous. And that's that kind of dissociative part of like, I'm going to take you out so you don't have to deal with anyone. No one can hurt you. No one can hurt your inner child. Like, we are good right here. And of course, as a mom, I'm never doing that for long anyway. I'm never
Right.
like vegging out too long. But yeah, I would say it's a fine line.
Yeah, I think it all depends on what you're going through.
Right.
If you just lost your significant other, I mean, 2 months on the couch is probably what your body needs to kind of go through the process
Oh,
of
yeah.
grief, and or
Yes.
if you're just, going through seasonal depression, then maybe motivate yourself to get off
Yeah.
the couch.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
more chemical related.
Oh, absolutely.
So with that, like talking about kind of feeling a little yucky or not quite yourself, how can someone tell the difference between like being in a rut like that or something much bigger? Like when's a good time to consider speaking to someone?
So, I think with a rut, there's usually a clear issue. So, an example is something like, I've been like really tired lately. Okay, well, why am I tired? Well, I'm sleeping like crap. I'm not moving my body. Let me try doing those things, and then I'll touch base with my future self and see, looking backwards, if there's been any difference. I think a lot of times with if it's something bigger or deeper, you experience it. So using the same example, you would say, "Oh, I'm so tired. I guess this is my life now. Whatever. Like we're here. Who cares? It could be worse. Could it be better? Who knows? Like I don't think it could ever be better." So I think it's really touching base with kind of all areas of your life: work, home, play, relationships. And if you're noticing a common thread between all of them, like you're tired, or you find yourself these sleepy parts taking over when you're at work, or when you are talking to your partner at night, or if it's across the span, then it could be a good time to reach out to get some professional help, whether it be therapy or therapy and medication. Those pair really well together.
Yeah. I think I think it goes with that, like, guilt of feeling like, "Oh, I'm failing," and facing that fact. You're not failing. It's a chemical reaction, just the same as, like, you can't control your liver function test and the numbers that appear on the blood test. You
Yeah.
have no control over what goes on inside your body. You do a little bit with the food you take and the way you move your body, but ultimately, I mean, depression is a chemical imbalance, and I
Yes.
think many people don't realize that. There's nothing wrong with
With you.
you.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with you. It happens, and just if once they just accept it and get help, you don't have to feel like that forever. There is help.
Oh, absolutely. And you don't even have to accept it. If you can uh, take that first step and reach out to someone. Or I had a client and she gave me permission to share the story. She would go on her rage walks, and she knew like moving her body was so essential to her mental health, but she didn't want to do it. So she was like, I would just stomp my ass down the street because I knew I had to do it. I didn't love it, but I knew it was good to move my body. And
Mhm.
I mean, so my like the inner social worker in me is always going to advocate for any type of medical assessment too, because chronic exhaustion could be so many medical things too. And if you are able to rule all of that out, like your thyroid's functioning fine, your vitamins are all level, then that's also another clue to tune into your mood and your mental health.
Mhm. Yeah, everything kind of works together as a team. One thing goes off balance, everything else is kind of working extra harder to kind of, you know, take on the extra slack, and n it's not gonna end well. You have to
Yes.
kinda keep
Yeah.
everything running smoothly.
Yeah.
So touching on seasonal depression, we're about that time, especially us in New England, the weather's
Mhm.
different, the times are different. Any advice for anyone listening who kind of tiptoes around that or gets it really bad, anything that can kind of help us out through this season?
Oh, absolutely. So you are at risk for seasonal depressive disorder if you have a history of any other mental health illness, whether it's current or years in the past. ADHD, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. It increases your risk of seasonal depression disorder. And you're right, now is the time. Like it's dark early. There's really nowhere to go. The towns we live in don't really want us to be outside. If they did, they would have lights in parks, and they would, create a way for us to exist outside. So, if you notice you're even more overwhelmed with people and activities, or if you just want to hibernate and sleep in and eat carbs, that could be the kind of the bigger symptoms. And science is supporting light lamps. I think they have to be a minimum of 10,000 lux or lumens. I'm not sure what the measurement is there, but you can buy them anywhere. They're usually a square, and you should prop it up next in the morning typically, because it activates your brain. So activates serotonin while also shutting down melatonin production. So if you do
Mm.
it first thing in the morning, maybe about 20 to 30 minutes. You want to keep it a foot or two away from your face. Don't look like directly in it, but have it kind of radiate into your system. Um, it, Even better if you bundle up and sit outside in the sun. That would be bold. It's
Yeah.
hard to do when you're, getting ready for the day. So, and there is a huge light lamp disclosure. And I would encourage people to talk to their doctors first, because if you have eye disorders or you're on a certain type of medication, if you have history of certain mental illnesses, it could be almost too activating and too overwhelming for the system. So that's kind of it's the gold standard of SAD, seasonal depression. And if you're feeling like you don't want to invest in a light lamp, sometimes you can go the pharmaceutical route and hop on an antidepressant or adjust your medication if you're already on medication in conjunction with therapy.
What's your take on like ashwagandha
Like, yeah,
and
cortisol type stuff and
yeah.
Yes. So, well, and that kind of goes into nervous system stuff. So I'm going to get a little sciencey, so bear with me.
Love it.
Um,
yeah, bring it on.
all right. So sympathetic nervous system is when we're in fight or flight or freeze or fawn. I know that I feel like they keep adding some words as we get more research and understanding of trauma. So when we're in that state, we want to do anything we can to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which is what really resets us, calms us down. The bulk of the parasympathetic nervous system is the vagus nerve. So it starts somewhere in your brain, and the bulk of it is from your brain to like your belly. So deep breaths, sticking your face in a bowl of ice cold water. I've been trying to do that lately, and my kids get a kick out of it, which is kind of makes it also silly. Is it's If you feel like you're almost too anxious to get a deep breath in, I think that's where you can do the dunking the face in the cold water. You can alternate nostril breathing. So in and out every other side for a couple of minutes. So I believe in anything that can reset your body. And it could be tea, it could be breathing, yoga, movement. And all of these things are so relatable to kids too. So if you have a little one who has big feelings, high energy, and you feel like they are in the sympathetic nervous system state where they're, for lack of better terms, freaking out, if they don't want to dunk their face in cold water, giving them a glass of ice water with a fun twirly straw to help activate that vagus nerve.
Hmm.
That's usually a pretty good tool. And then on the flip side, I think movement is so powerful. So as much as when we think of a reset and yoga and meditation, I think that doesn't work for everyone. As much as I will promote it and be super annoying about it, I think some people need movement. And I know I do at times where I'm trying all the things, nothing's working. So then I find you're in a funk playlist on Spotify, and I just move my body. Doesn't have to be pretty, but
Yeah.
it
That's
activates
cool.
that. Yeah, it activates that system again.
Yeah.
Can't, like, humming and singing activate your vagus nerve?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I actually know some people who, like, hum quite a bit, like,
Yeah.
probably not realizing they're humming, and they're probably just self-soothing, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I and again, that's another good one with kids is before bed, humming a song together. Because bedtime for kids is a lot of kids get those wigglies, and it's really because it's the longest period they're going to go without their main attachment providers or caregivers. So they're going to be big and try to regulate. So humming a song, singing a song at night is really good. And yes, I mean, humming is definitely self-soothing. Never say that word. Self-soothing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna start humming every night again. Like,
Yeah.
we used to do that when they were babies, and then for some
Right.
Right?
reason, it just stops. What the hell? Like, we're bringing
And
that back.
there's more grief, right? Like you're doing
Yeah.
all of these really wonderful, beautiful things, and all of a sudden they don't want or need it anymore. It's like, be little again. But also
Yeah.
so exciting to watch them grow. And I think if kids see us regulating our system, of course we don't have to, completely say, "Hey, I'm having a panic attack." But there are ways to talk to kids like, "I'm gonna go dunk my face in the water. I'm feeling like I don't have a way of speaking that's kind, or like the vibes are off. I'm gonna go dance." And they can see that we're taking care of ourselves without
Yeah.
oversharing what our issue at the moment is.
It's funny you said that because we just, um, met with somebody, a child behavioralist, and they talked big about the modeling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
speaking your emotions out, and so I think
Yeah.
that's twice that we've heard it, Emily.
Yeah.
We need to
We need to do that. I try to explain. I think my kids are old enough now too to, they know like I'm going to go over here, I'm going to do my yoga or I'm going to sit in the sauna for a little bit or I'm going to whatever. They get it and for the most part they know that's mom time and I'm doing this to be healthy and keep my mind good and I try to explain it without being too intense for a little brain, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good they see you taking care of yourself and learning, you know.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that comes easy for you too, but I know it hasn't in motherhood, it hasn't come easy for me at all to take care of myself, which I mean goes deeper. Like, have I ever really taken great care of myself? Probably.
Well,
Right? Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
nothing cracks you open like motherhood. And like, sorry guys, I know like you're being excluded from the conversation here, but you get to witness all of it anyway. And I mean, that goes back to connection and having women around you, and really creating this group of unity because we're all just trying to survive, and it's so important to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
the number you are your number one person, you know? If
absolutely.
you're not
Yeah.
good, then nobody in your life is gonna
Right.
be good.
You gotta take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what are some signs of growth that people would kind of almost take as a setback, but they're surprisingly like good signs that they're growing,
How would we
it's
know we're
working?
doing good things?
Yeah.
I can, well, even though we've had a short amount of time together, I can guarantee you guys that you're doing good things. But I think
Oh, thanks.
for all of the listeners, it's feeling uncomfortable really with following through with the work you're doing for yourself. So the amount of times a client will come in here and say like, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. And it's so easy to sit with that pity and that shame and that guilt. Like those parts can become so activated, especially in therapy, because typically, like you said, Emily, like you're talking about really deep and intense stuff. And then as you really sit with it and think and look back, I think a lot of it is such internal work of noticing you're not as quick to be angry or not as quick to be anxious, or you're not as quick to have any of those emotions flood the driver's seat of the bus or flood the, inside out panel.
Yeah. No, that's
And I'm not sure if that
Ho
answers your
No,
question.
yeah, it
yeah.
does. How would one go about picking a therapist? Like, how do you know it's right for you? How do
Mm.
you know when it's not working and when to look for another person?
I
What's your
mean,
take?
I feel like the vibes are everything. So if you don't feel like you can develop a trusting relationship with your provider, then no amount of credentials and training and experience that provider has will be able to help you. And I think a lot of times we go for basics. Do they take my insurance? Do they have my availability? Great, I'm going to jump in. And sometimes like you deserve more than that and you can shop around, and we as therapists expect to have a consultation call where a client's going to ask us a million different questions. And if you find out that you feel you can develop a relationship and a trusting bond to explore some of your past and your trauma, then that kind of sets the stage, and it models and mimics early childhood attachment. So to
Oh,
me, I think a lot of therapists I know that I talk with, the relationship is the therapy. And of course, tools are very important, and the type of therapy is very important too. But it all comes down to the relationship and the second part of your question about like if things aren't going the way you think they are, or you don't feel like you're meeting your goals, we as therapists want that feedback. We want to know like, hey Jess, I really hate it when you do this thing in session. I don't feel like it's conducive to meeting my goals. And then if I can't get my shit together and I can't fix that and rework how I work with that client, then I would fire myself. I mean, not literally, but I would
Yeah.
hope that the client would then move on to someone else.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's honorable of you. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
you can tell that you care deep down for the well-being of your patients more than anything, and
Yeah,
that's special.
thank you.
One more thing I wanted to tap into is w the psychedelic therapy, all right?
Yes.
Very
Because
curious.
yes, yes. I've known some people to do, like, the IV ketamine for, really heavy depression, all these things. Some of them it worked for them, some of them it was a little bit too intense, but there are different types, right?
There are. Yes, psychedelics is totally having a moment. And I feel like it is my training was in 2021 and it's 2025 now and I feel like it's already transitioning and reshaping and reforming again. So, trials have been going on for years outside of the public eye because of the stigma behind psychedelics. You think is it Tim Leary? Whatever his name is, you think these LSD, you trip out and you have a bad trip and you're puking everywhere. So like there's this stigma
Mhm.
that
That
needs to
doesn't
be
sound fun.
overcome. No, not at all. So some of the big ones are the ones that I had my training and research in are psilocybin, which is mushrooms, and MDMA, which is the street name is ecstasy, and even LSD. And they dip into your serotonin. And on higher trips, you feel like you have no ego. And if you have no ego, you can really dive into that inner child. You could dive into past lives, even, or feeling like you are part of a bigger spiritual world. And the idea is that when all of these doors are open, there are new neural network connections happening in your brain that allow you to exist without like dread and existential crisis all the time. So it's really interesting. I know you can go to like Costa Rica and you can go on trips and for ayahuasca journeys or whatever. And I feel like that can be really beautiful. I mean, you hear celebrities doing that all the time, but I think there's a lot to think about when doing those trips because you're going on someone else's indigenous land and you're using their medicine. So I think there are really important ways to do it to make sure the set and setting are right, to make sure you're in a good group of people, that your guide or shaman, or like here in Connecticut, the doctor is well qualified to hold that space for you.
Mhm. Oh, I'm a big believer. I mean, I never did ecstasy, but when I was in high school, I mean, I was not in a good place in high school. I tried to commit suicide. I was very depressed, and I was introduced to mushrooms. And let me tell you, without even knowing the therapeutic effects of it, that coupled with the secret and the positive mindset, I was a totally different person before and after. I mean, I did them probably a handful of times in high school, but it does. It takes away your ego. You're part of a bigger thing. Like you just, I don't know. It definitely altered my brain. It made different pathways. It makes me look at the world so completely different. It took me from the darkest place in my life to a beautiful place.
And that was just on your own. Like, can you imagine doing it with a
I know,
actual
like a
certified doctor or clinician?
right? Yeah, I mean, this having someone guide you, I think would be so
Oh my
cool
gosh.
and really powerful. But yeah, I mean, that was just me kind of experimenting and finding my own like way through this like heavy time, but I I'm a big believer and I think there's going to be a huge wave of it because it is it's very stigmatized,
Mm,
you know?
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
picture Woodstock, you picture people going out of control, that's not what it is, that's the extreme of it. That is the extreme of it, but look at people under alcohol. They
mhm.
go to the extreme of it too, you know? And
Yeah.
so
Oh, absolutely. Well, and even like first and foremost, thank you for sharing that about yourself. That again, takes a lot of courage. And I would even say part of your integration work today, maybe, or some of that self reflection or shadow work you do later, is asking your high school self to observe this conversation, to observe this
Mhm.
interaction, and to see, like, look, you're even talking about yourself. Like, this is
Yeah.
so beautiful. So, like, the work is always happening, whether we know it or not. It's tapping into it. And I think the integration is so huge. So when you're doing these medicines in, more of a clinical setting, having a really good therapist is helpful. Integrate all of the work and to make sense of it. And it is so beautiful that it's so different than what people expect because with ecstasy, the trials around NDMA are with veterans who, as we know, have seen like the darkest, deepest horrors
Mhm.
of war. So you would think if you picture ecstasy, you would think them like raving out. And under these really high doses in a clinical setting, I've seen so many training videos and everyone's just chilling. Like you're sitting on the couch. Sometimes the therapist is, with consent, of course, holding your hand or really guiding and being curious as to what you're seeing or not talking at all. So there is so much uh, work around it. And I would caution, I think with ketamine taking such a big boom right now in the industry, I would caution people to really do their research on who they're looking for because I've seen ketamine clinics pop up in strip malls and like highly
Ooh.
do not
Mm.
recommend that, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
know, because it's such an inexpensive drug, but doctors are have to make a living and charging such an exorbitant amount of money. Insurance isn't covering it. So you really want to find someone who understands the use of ketamine, how to find the right dosage, how to understand the client coming in because you have to change your diet, you have to change your medications before doing it typically because it's a medication, it's not a plan.
Right.
So yeah, do your
Right.
research.
I'm a big fan of the mushroom root. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
dabble into ecstasy one time. I don't really know.
You never know.
I think my kids need to leave the nest before I do that,
I
but
know. I've thought about that too. Like, I can't in good faith enjoy and have a good trip if I know I have 2 little humans
right?
who might
Of
need
Yeah.
me to
course.
wipe their butt, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Yeah.
grandma calls and he's got a fever. I would go into pure
Oh,
panic mode and have the
Right.
right,
worst trip
right,
ever. Yeah.
right.
No, there's a time and a place for everything.
So,
There
Jess, what
is.
does it look like when you are working with somebody with psychedelics? Like you said, I'm thinking like shamans out in the woods and puke buckets and
Right? And that's like
like
the
I know that's
imagery.
not what you're doing. So, like, what does it look like?
Yes.
Is it like a full day with you? Is it because like do they need a
So
ride after? Like, are they on the
It's good that you
couch? What's
asked.
the deal?
I just see my God. So I haven't done any actual medicine sessions because of Connecticut and the laws around it. I would have to
Okay,
get it like off label and do it illegally, and it would risk my credentialing and my clients.
gotcha.
So most of the time, when I see people that are doing these journeys, they come to me after, and we're usually able, since they're current clients, we stick to our regular schedule. Um, I think ideally in a perfect world, if we didn't have to like hone so much on risk assessment, um, it would be out in nature. It would be because nature is reality. It's not this.
Mhm.
Like my office is, I love my office, but that's not reality. So
Yeah.
I think ideally high dose in a comfortable setting that there's access to nature with ketamine because that's the one that people can easily access. There is kind of the trip itself, if it's IV treatment, usually takes about 40 to 60 minutes to get in your system. You feel under and dissociative without being like fully taken out for about maybe 2 hours, I think, and then another hour or 2 to come down from that. And I think the biggest side effect are nausea and headaches, which, Gatorade, rest, you shouldn't drive after. Even with mushrooms and when they are doing the mushroom and ecstasy trials, you're there overnight. So there are hospitals where you're there 10 to 12 hours undergoing this trip with constant supervision, nurses checking, your vitals, therapists touching base, doctors coming in. So there's a whole setting around it. And
Okay.
um, yeah,
Gosh,
Cool.
it really
So
is.
cool.
Especially for people like that, like our veterans and stuff who just
Yeah.
have gone through so much trauma and,
Yeah.
can't find peace anywhere.
Like,
Yeah.
after doing that, that's, I think, what kickstarted me into trying to help others never feel as low as I did, and I think
Yeah.
that's natural for anyone who's ever been through depression and really dark, dark days, because
Yes.
they know what it's like, and they never want anyone to feel like that, you know?
Right.
No, yeah, and you're not alone, and I think, like, we hear that all the time, and it's so hard to actually believe it because a lot of people have agendas when you're talking with others, and I guess you could even argue that I have an agenda. I wanna get paid when I have my sessions, and so while that's the bigger agenda, if you're coming from a place of self-love and all of those qualities that I mentioned with the IFS and shadow work, you're going to do it naturally. You will stabilize naturally because you have the compassion to build that relationship. And I think what's neat about psychedelics too is that the IFS and shadow work, they pair so well together because I mean, some people think shadow and parts work is kind of woo woo and out there, and it's really hard to grasp because it's not cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not this rigid system that you can really experience the medicine. You can experience your thoughts, your feelings, the visuals. You can embody all of that to then turn around and say to your younger parts, look at me. I'm doing it.
Mhm.
That's
Oh,
incredible.
man, if I could have lunch with
Yeah.
my little self, oh my
Right?
god, that would
Yeah.
be that would be great.
It'd be so
Well,
Might be
healing.
able to.
yeah, my next trip.
Mhm.
Well, to close up today, one more question. What could
Mhm.
people do today to keep it good for their mental health?
I would
Is there more
say,
than one?
well, yes, this is shocking. Really lean into your self energy, lean into what keeps you going every single day, whether it is calling that best friend, whether it's touching grass, looking at the ocean, connecting with nature is such a huge thing. And then there are trends out there that I think are successful. So, digital detox, if you can spend some time off of your phone. I'm really stuck on this one today, but cold plunges, or if that's too much, sticking your face in water, an ice bath of water for your face.
Oh,
All of the
yeah.
things that you feel can boost up your ability to be clear, courageous, and compassionate.
Yeah. I mean, we did the eye cryo. That was
Yes, how was it?
incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah.
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 It was insane. I'm not one to get, like, cold and wet, but this was, like, cold and dry. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's
It was
cold and
good.
Oh
dry
my
for
gosh,
sure.
I'm
It
gonna
was
have to
good.
It's
try it.
intense.
Yeah,
Oh, you would love it.
Mhm.
I think I would. Like, sign me up. But it and just it, and integrating. So you have a thought, you have a feeling, you have an experience. Being curious about it. What's coming up right now? I don't know, but I'm feeling tight in my shoulders. Let me just breathe into my shoulders. So really having a practice of taking care of yourself.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
How do people
Yeah.
get a hold of you? I mean, I would wanna get a hold of you.
Yes,
Oh
sign me
yeah,
up.
You sound
yes.
incredible.
Yeah, thank you. So email is probably the best way to get in touch with me. My email is soundpsychotherapy@gmail.com.
Okay. And I'll link that to the description for this episode so that people can, have a direct link to you because I think you're very down to earth. You're very non-judgmental. Your aura. I mean, look, and no one else can see her right
Yeah,
now, but she's so
Oh,
I
beautiful.
know, I'm
don't
literally
stop.
glowing.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. There's
thank
something
you.
truly special about you,
Yeah,
Jess. I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
that we were able to sit down and talk. I mean, you
Me
got me to spill
too.
my guts. My God.
I
so
know. Well,
good.
I mean, I love it, and like I said, it takes a lot of courage, and who knows how many of your listeners are going to hear your story, Carly, and be like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, I can relate." Yeah.
Well, hopefully they don't run to mushrooms. I mean, there's many other things that I
Yeah.
did along with
Of
the
course.
mushrooms, but that was definitely a life-changing experience for sure, which I
Yeah.
think others should, just consider maybe safely.
Yes. And therapy. I mean, can I just add one more thing? Because I feel like some people feel, or some therapists will say, everyone needs therapy. Like, you just need to do it. And I don't think everyone necessarily needs therapy, but if you feel like you can't access therapy because there are like financial barriers or time barriers, there are so many reasonable websites out there that have information. So on my website, it's been a little dry lately in terms of my blog, but I'm going to try to get back to it. And that's soundpsychotherapy.com. But if you want information on mental Health, there's the National Institute of Mental Health, and then novopsych.com. They have a lot of free screeners and assessments. So if you feel like, oh gosh, do I have depression? Do I have bipolar disorder? What's going on here? Am I one of those late ADHD women? That website should have some free assessments to help you kind of gauge where you're at.
I love
That's
that you
awesome.
did that.
I know.
Amazing, because
Yes,
really, I mean,
yes,
it can be very hard to find a spot in
I
any
know.
Well, and
healthcare
a lot of
right
us kind
now.
of joke around, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's just my ADHD." I don't know if I
Yes.
have it, but I do
Yeah.
joke, which is probably not kind. Um,
Oh, that's okay.
but, we just kinda live with it, like, "Oh, yeah, that's good. That's normal.
Yeah.
I'll be fine."
Right. And
Yeah, until you realize
a lot of women are getting diagnosed later in life, and I think it's because we have learned how to mask it for so long. And then once you
Yeah.
add one or two more stressors, the ship or the train totally goes off the tracks, and you're like, "What is wrong with me? Why can't I get it together?" I'm putting that in quotes for all you listeners because you're doing fine, and you don't have to get it together. You just have to understand how you're wired, and then go from there.
yeah, take it day by day.
Jess, you're a gem.
I know, I love you. So, wrapping up with our quote today, I mean, this just fits so perfectly. This is from John Kabat-Zinn. I
Yes.
apologize if I mess that up, but he says, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." And that is life, right?
Love
It's
that.
the ups and downs, the bigs, the lows, all of it. And it's just learning how to kind of navigate that every day. I mean, one day's going to be great, the next day might not be so great, but it's how you make it through. And
Boogie boarding even we were saying, right? You can boogie
yeah,
board, you don't have
Yes,
to surf.
exactly.
yeah. Start on your
Start on your
belly.
belly.
By the time you've hit your old ripe age, you're surfing those 12
Yeah, we're like, "You're in Hawaii or
waves.
Costa Rica." Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be great.
Yes,
Yeah.
have some
This.
ayahuasca while you're down there.
Love
Don't.
it. Yes, I'm yep.
Uh,
All right. Well, thank you again. We really enjoyed this, and I hope our listeners got a little something out of it,
I think
right?
they got
yes,
plenty.
I think
This was
so.
awesome.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jess.
You're so welcome. And I would say if anyone heard something that they didn't understand or wanted more of an explanation or think I'm totally off base, please email me. I love people. So, and I've had such a great time with you too.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we hope everyone has a really great week. And as always, keep it good.